Rob Ninkovich, you played for those Patriot teams. You know how Bill Belichick attacks the great offenses. What do you expect to see?
Well, look, first and foremost, I could think back to 2013. We played the Denver Broncos, and that team in particular holds the record for points. I think they scored 606 points. So at the end of the day, it's about how could you hold that team to less points than you can, and you can go out there and score more points than them. So I think in that game, I think Peyton Manning threw for 150 yards and had a 70 QBR. If Pat Mahomes throws for 150 yards in his QBR of 70, the Patriots are going to win this football game. So how do you do that? I know it's easier said than done, but first and foremost, you got to be physical. You have to affect the receivers off their routes. And when you have a guy like Tyreek Hill who runs a 4-2 straight down the field, he's going to extend that intermediate route where Kelsey's so good. So you have to disrupt at the line of scrimmage. I would suspect that they're going to have guys at the line of scrimmage hitting, jamming, beating up the receivers at the line to where they just can't release down the field and put stress on your secondary. Again, it's going to be difficult. The Kansas City Chiefs are the reigning champions, but I think the Patriots will come up with a game plan.
RC, we talked about Kansas City a lot this week. We know Belichick will take away one thing from every team he goes up against. If it were you, what's the one thing you're taking away from KC?
Well, the one thing I'm taking away from KC is anticipation. When you play against the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to play them like your three teams. The special teams is playing the offense. The defense is playing the offense. And your offense is playing that offense. You have to run the ball. It's about ball control. It's about time of possession. And then defensively, you want Patrick Mahomes to have to figure out what you're doing defensively in his drop. If he can read your mail, if he understands what you're in pre-play, that's the way he will attack you. If you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they were in man over 50% when they played against the Kansas City Chiefs. But we watched the Los Angeles Chargers be in zone for 70. So it's about being able to switch in between those two things and having the people to do it. We've watched Bill Belichick go two ways with number one receivers like Tyreek Hill. He's put his number one corner on them, or he's used his number one corner to cover someone else, and they've doubled the number one threat down the field with Devin McCourty. I expect him to use both versions of those. I expect him to use zone, and I expect this offense to run the football and try to control the clock to keep it away from Patrick Mahomes.
That's a really good point. When they beat them in the AFC Championship game 2 years ago, the Patriots ran 94 plays. The Chiefs ran 47.
We've all been on great defenses. We've all went against these juggernauts, and you play keep away from the best player. The best defensive player that the Kansas City Chiefs have is Patrick Mahomes in that offense. So what happens is you tell him to sit down and get some Gatorade as you matriculate the ball down the field. You go down, you make sure that you get third downs, you can control the ball. But listen, what's been lost in all of this is that this Kansas City Chiefs defense is starless. They have 3 stars, and they're just there to design and close the show. They're not built to play from behind. Make this defense have to play defense for real, because they only have 3 players that we would take on any one of our defenses ever. That's Chris Jones, that's Tyrann Mathieu, and Frank Clark. Nobody else on that team could ever play for any defense that we've been on.
Dianna, you're covering that game. What do you have your eye on?
One quick thing, talking to New England's defensive players about it this week, they said the blueprint that they're watching, that they're closely looking at, is what the Chargers have done against Kansas City. That's the game plan that we're going to most likely see on Sunday. In terms of what Kansas City is preparing, Spags is well aware how dangerous Cam Newton is with his legs. And he knows that Bill is going to want to run that ball as much as possible. I think for this season, this is the best Cam we will see this Sunday, because he'll be using his legs as much as possible.
So let me go to Sanchez, because Mark, as a quarterback for so many years, you went up against Belichick regularly. You know all about the challenges of facing his defenses. What do you expect Belichick to do to try to slow down Mahomes?
I could see him switching up to a little more zone coverage if what you're saying, Dianna, is what you've heard from the Patriots. And the Chargers ran a ton of zone, but also Rob Ninkovich knows this all too well. He's got to put out an all-points bulletin on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Anytime this guy's in the backfield, he's going to charge guys like Rob Ninkovich, his edge rushers, his outside linebackers. You got to get a piece of this guy if he has a free release. You got to impede his progress out of the backfield just to throw off their timing and then go rush the quarterback. And as a quarterback, it was such a pain in the ass. It was so hard to deal with because you're ready for something to happen. It screws up your read and your timing. Also, if you're going to let Patrick Mahomes scramble, at least force him to one side or the other. You got to get him to the left side of the field, to the right side of the field, so the DBs know when those routes break off, he's going one specific way. Keep covering in that direction.
Ninkovich, you made a similar point today about slowing down that running game being the key.
Yeah, hold on one second. I just wanted to show Mark something real quick. So I'm so
That's
sorry.
That's disrespectful.
Oh, God. That's so mean.
Disrespectful, Rob.
That's so mean to Mark.
We used to be friends.
All right, so listen up. You can't stop Kansas City. What are you going to do against Kansas City's offense? You just want to limit the amount of big plays. You don't want to go out there and say, hey, look, guys, we're going to stop the best offense in the NFL. It's not going to happen. So I can think back in 2013, we played the best offense, the most points scored in 2013 in the history of the NFL. And what you had to do is try and limit some of the damage. We played against Peyton Manning, one of the best ever. We know that. Threw for 150 yards, 70 QBR. You play a quarterback like that and you limit his production, you're going to have a chance to win that game. We won it in overtime by 3, but I'm just saying, you're playing Kansas City. You got to make sure you don't give up the big play. Don't give them easy plays for touchdowns. Make them work for it and earn it.
What do you think, Bart?
Well, I know this is a new movie for everybody else, but this is a rerun for Bill Belichick. Remember Peyton Manning and Marvin Harris? You talk about, Dallas Clark. He's seen these type of offenses before, and he's got physical with them. They changed rules because of some of those Patriot defense. He's going to get up in their face and force them to get off of the line of scrimmage and throw into tight windows. And I say, listen, if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose because Hilaire's going to run for 200 yards. Listen, I'm going to be in a light box. I'm going to make sure I double team everybody and have a robber in the center of the field to make sure if anybody loses their coverage because Tyreek Hill wants to run horizontally, I got a guy that's sitting up there making them pay the toll. You got to pay $200 before you go to goal. You're going to take a physical punishment going across that middle.
All right, we will see. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.